Hello and welcome to Radio Free Nintendo, episode, 925?
Yep.
Yeah! This is like 3 weeks in a row. I'm gonna fuck this up any day now. It is May 1st, 2025, and I am James Jones. I'm joined today by the confirming Mr. Guillaume Vayette.
Good evening.
The unconcerned Mr. John Lindemann.
It's great to be here, James.
Is it? There was a long delay there.
I'm unconcerned. So,
Okay.
What do I care?
The delay implied otherwise, but all right, I'll take your word for it, because I'm the trusting James Jones. And last but not least, I don't have an adjective in the top of my head for some reason. Help me, Greg Leahy.
The returning Greg Leahy?
It's true.
True.
It works. Ahoy, everyone.
Greg, did you enjoy the draft?
It is what it is. We've talked about that before. These days, I do use it quite a lot as a means to catch up on stuff I've missed with the rest of the off-season, so it kind of works. And lots of Xenoblade, as the last couple of years have been, because it is very apt content for that, as opposed to stuff like, actual sport. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
if you're playing Xenoblade X while watching, for instance, a game from the Oilers King series, you might miss about like 4 or 5 goals in the time it takes you to run a quest or something. So, it's, the draft is much safer, shall we say.
What is it broadcast on over there, Greg? Is it Sky Sports?
Oh, the NHL. Well, there is a
the draft.
Oh, the draft. Yeah, Sky Sports, but also if you're already paying full freight for the watch every game package, the Game Pass and all that, then you can watch it through that as well.
Okay,
just stream it.
Yeah, what's NHL?
That's unfortunate.
NHL, there is a sort of lower profile kind of broadcast channel that carries it, but again, you can just watch it on the NHL app, the stream NHL TV.
Yep.
We're gonna start the show with some email. Your email, not just anyone's email. You personally. We are going to read your email on the show. This is true for every person listening to the show right now. It is your email to start the show. That is a lie. Unless your name just happens to be Bikenite, who writes, "Hey all. So Nintendo Music got Fire Emblem Engage, and Nintendo Switch Online is getting Fire Emblem games. Think Nintendo is hinting at a new Fire Emblem game for Switch 2? Or are they going to drop the ball again with advertising?" What?
What does drop the ball again mean?
That's the part I'm confused about, because I don't think any amount.
Did it just take too long for the Switch one to come out to some people, or what?
No, I think the implication is that they didn't push Engage, which I would argue any amount of pushing Engage was probably bad for Engage, because Engage is ironically not very engaging. The issue with that one, I think, is one, it's visually garish, so it's hard to advertise that way. But two, it just feels incredibly immature and like weird. And I described it in our Discord the other day as feeling like it was a game made with a cast entirely of corporate VTubers. So like there's a certain amount of, why is this game like this? But also, people had all their comments about like the I'm gonna go take you into my treehouse and face touch thing that was in the 3DS games. This one had every member of the cast just sneak up and watch you sleep, and like you'd wake up and they'd be staring at you in your sleep. It's like, how is this not worse? This is so much worse. I hate this so much. And your hero never locked his door. Really should lock their door. Like, look. The third time, you gotta lock your door. There's no excuse at this point. No. I do not believe this is pushing a new Fire Emblem game.
It's just, we tossed you, James, by following up what I sent over to you by email with the closing music last week from the Sacred Stones and all that. We took the anniversary for the series in Japan, the first entry. was on April the 20th or whatever. So it's really just rustling up some things to kind of tie in with that when seemingly, there is no game to kind of anchor that stuff. If they did have one, presumably we would have seen it with one of the two Nintendo Directs, because I guess it could have been a game that was, like Rhythm Heaven or the Tomodachi Life, held over on the previous system, or a cross-platform game or something, theoretically. But you always kind of felt it was more likely there'd be one on Switch 2, and I'm sure there will be before too long. Because, as we know, another thing that was odd about Engage was just this sort of open secret that it had been finished for quite some time before it was released. So, in terms of, it depends who is developing the next Fire Emblem.
The everybody 1-2 Switch treatment.
Yeah, I don't know whether it was quite that extreme, but yeah, there was some overlap in terms of, there's been more than a few of those games where, people who, data mining and whatever else, in some cases suggest that, they have these things kind of queued up for a while, and sometimes they can keep a lid on it until relatively close till it comes out, and then other times they can't. But in this case, you kind of felt like there was a bit of a possibility left open that some kind of Fire Emblem thing, where it might not necessarily be an entirely original game, could have been another kind of remake type of thing, maybe perhaps tying into the anniversary, celebrating the history of the series or any of that kind of thing. But in this case, it would appear that it's going to have to wait a little bit longer, and it won't be, the kind of relatively what Nintendo considers to be a major anniversary anyway, the 35th anniversary or whatever, based on how they did things with Super Mario. But a lot of that was just, I guess, because that's something they could do at short notice in a year in 2020. Maybe that adds a role to play with that as well. But that just kind of makes you wonder about, obviously we're 5 years on the Super Mario 40th, whether what you would imagine there'd be some kind of
there's gotta be
offering in that direct, but there's been no suggestion of it yet in terms of stuff that has come out of those twin Nintendo Directs for the two platforms. The only other thing I guess we could say is whether instead of because anniversaries aren't actually that important, are they? Sometimes it could be a sort of convenient thing to act as like a tent pole for, a bunch of stuff, but other times, you've just got bigger fish to fry. I do wonder whether maybe there'd be more of a priority perhaps of having something tie in with the release of the next Super Mario movie, which is going to be next year, isn't it? Sort of April-ish again, I think, or in 26. So perhaps, there'd be some major Mario news or products or whatever then. But you've got to think, if it's between the anniversary this year and that next year, you would imagine there'd be something there as well. But yeah, again, that's the point. Sometimes with anniversaries, all it is just like, oh, well, we've got these ongoing drip feed content streams with NSO, classic games, and now the music app, and it's like, oh yeah, we can acknowledge these things by, just queuing that up into the feed rather than necessarily anything terribly high cost, high effort.
Yes, there will be another one of these things. Obviously, it will come around, but to Greg's point, they're just tying us to the. In fact, I think they even said they were tying it to the anniversary. It's just
to throw off us the scent, James.
Nintendo doesn't exactly do a good job with smoke signals. I'm just gonna to whom would they be like? This weird anti-marketing. They'll never see it coming. If they never see it coming, you didn't do a very good job marketing, did you? No,
it worked for Sega and the Saturn, by which I mean it definitely did not work for Sega and the Saturn.
It had a measurable outcome. you can draw. There was an experiment and there was an outcome, and I think we got to see that. No. If it was to promote a game, they would have already announced the game. Because this isn't going to stick in your memory for more than a week, because both of these things are going to be buried by new announcements. Well, in fact, one of them's already been buried by a new announcement. The Nintendo Music app updated this week, and it updated with what was it?
Well, exactly. It doesn't exactly stick to the mind. Yeah, like it's too niche. Like the Nintendo Music app is too niche to be like passing secret code marketing things. Like I don't think that there's like a breadcrumbs here to follow back to like some big reveal.
If you read the first letter of every Nintendo Today post, you'll see a message directly from Miyamoto. You'll know this because it says, "This is Miyamoto," and it takes 8 days for it to spell out that many letters.
You might have to mix the letters until it spells something that confirms what you thought was going to say.
If you're going to make some sort of argument in favour of this notion, you could look at, say, for instance, there's some of the breadcrumbs that led up to Donkey Kong Bonanza, right? I mean, theoretically, we did not know this existed. I mean, we speculated such a thing could exist, and we did so on the basis of, well, they've been doing a lot of DK sort of, pumping up his profile lately, haven't they? There was the role in the movie with the adjusted design, and then there's all the sort of releases on NSO, and then we had the announcement of DKC Returns getting the HD version and the theme park and all that. It's like, this feels like it's building up to something, right? And then it did. Problem is, this is just there's just the data points are lesser in both volume and significance here to create any kind of equivalent trail of breadcrumbs, I'd say. But I assume that's where the notion is coming from, is that kind of idea.
Yeah, there's more effective ways to do it, including announcing the game in question. All right. Move on? Let's do it.
Yeah.
Yo, I want you to read the next email.
Sure. PPCO writes, "Hey RFN crew. So it's finally happening. GameCube games are coming to the NSO. We're talking Wind Waker, Soul Calibur 2, Mario Strikers, some real quote-unquote blow the dust off your Wavebird classics. Naturally, many of us are already frothing at the loins for Smash Melee to show up. But would Nintendo really toss that one into the subscription bin, knowing that it still has a rabid competitive scene, and that there's probably $110 Canadian Super Smash Bros. Ultimate Deluxe Turbo definitive funky mode lurking around the corner? Meanwhile, F-Zero fans, all 7 of us, are thriving. With every F-Zero soon available on the Switch, and Switch 2, could this actually be leading to a brand new, honest-to-goodness, new F-Zero game? Or is this just the final form of, you already got F-Zero 99, now go sit in the corner and boost power until you explode? What do you all think? Is Melee gonna make the cut? Is Captain Falcon finally getting a fresh ride? Stay frothy.
I mean, yeah, he's getting F-Zero GX. Done.
We can't forget Twister Race or whatever the bloody hell it was in Nintendo Land, although that itself is like 13 years old nearly.
Nintendo Land coming to the Wii U Virtual Console.
12 and a half.
Which is a virtual console for the Wii U in Switch 2. I mean, maybe?
Let's tackle it in order. The Smash Brothers scenario, there's a few interesting sort of points to do with this, in that, first of all, we're still waiting for Smash 64 to show up. And they've hit a lot of the obvious stuff with the 64 part of the NSO expansion pack at this point, right? And I mean, they've even gone some places that you never would have thought they would either go at all, or certainly not before, something that's a lot more kind of core to, N64 players' kind of memories, as Super Smash Bros. Was, right? But Iggy's Wrecking Balls, or, Ridge Racer, or, some of the other rare stuff, Blast Core and Jet Force Gemini and Perfect Dark, and, there seems much, GoldenEye, much further afield than Smash for N64. And again, we must remember, while the Smash Brothers series today is a sprawling thing that you have to, deals with licensing characters from Sega and Capcom and Konami and Square Enix and all the rest of it. That was not true for the original Smash Brothers or Melee. That was, yes, you've got the thing of Nintendo doesn't entirely own, Kirby or Pokemon, those, the separate companies have the rights there technically, but, it doesn't stop them putting out, the games on NSO for, all those N64 Pokemon spin-offs or Kirby 64 or anything like that. So, or indeed, Earthbound, the Earthbound and Mother 3 in Japan and so forth. So, I'm not clear on why that is the case, to be honest. I mean, it certainly Smash Brothers was part of the Wii Virtual Console lineup for N64 games, but then I believe, I don't know whether there are any regional variances with this, because that can be true. Sometimes something shows up in Japan, for instance, and not elsewhere. But, certainly I don't recall the Smash Brothers getting a Wii U Virtual Console release in Europe. Anyway.
Yeah, no, I looked at a Wikipedia list and Smash doesn't show up, so...
So something changed seemingly between, because mostly, and not perfect, but there was a pretty good degree of overlap between the N64 Virtual Console library for Wii and Wii U. It was mostly the same game. So some differences. But didn't DK64 show up on the Wii U or something when it didn't before?
So. Yeah, it did.
You get stuff like that, and I'm sure there was some going the other way. But generally speaking, they're the same games. And for some reason, Smash dropped out, and it still has not re-emerged, even with the expansion pack having been, it can be quite a few years old now. So that doesn't necessarily augur that well for Melee, just in general, whatever that is, whether it's I don't know, maybe, obviously, PPCO is positing that you could release Melee as its own game, and it could generate a bit of, a fair bit of business. That's a fairly sensible proposition, I would have thought. But I don't know whether it suggests they might even consider rolling Smash 64 into that as well, as a collection of multiple games. I mean, doesn't seem that likely, but I guess there's that component to consider possibly, but there's something going on there, and so whether it's the notion of, because there'll be a number of GameCube games that won't appear either. It might take them a while to appear, or they may not appear at all, because they've either already been released as a game, on Switch relatively recently. I'm thinking of something like, the Pikmin 1 and 2 kind of versions that were on Switch for it, so that may well push back a time when, Pikmin emerges, when those games emerge on the service, for instance, or it could be something that's coming in the future. We've already talked about this relatively recently with, for instance, why DK94 took so long to show up with the Game Boy part of the service, and it's probably because maybe they thought there was just too much overlap with the Mario vs. DK remake, which was going to be a full retail game, so there's going to be stuff like that affects a bunch of GameCube games. It certainly seems like that could be something that pushes back Melee, if not takes it out of play perhaps entirely, if they are going to re-release it. Because, the other part of that is, what the hell do you do with Smash now that it's this ridiculous Ultimate has left it in this place where going back to like start from scratch seems really kind of unpalatable. But then extending it even further might be really difficult with all the licensing involved. So maybe just like doing a retro thing is like one of the easier ways you could monetize the series for the time being.
My gut is they probably will put it on there at some point, but probably pretty late. Like, it'll probably be one of the later games that makes the service, because one, it's a big game. I mean, relatively speaking, for a GameCube game.
It was the biggest seller, right? For GameCube.
Yeah. But I mean, as a size. But also it has the worst fans, and they deserve to suffer.
They do.
So,
absolutely. We've talked about this for years.
And shower. They deserve to shower. We're begging you to shower. And so Nintendo's going to hold it into
a controversial statement here that Mother 3 fans are not the worst.
Among the worst. Mother 3 fans aren't real. They are what's the word for it? Self-deluded. That's the word I want. But like, honestly, Melee's fine. It'll probably get in there because it's an opportunity for them to put it out there. It's just like they're gonna release a new Smash Brothers, or they're gonna release something in the Smash Brothers vein before they do that. What that is, I have no idea.
Or you think would they do it before just to kind of, take heat off of people always asking about another Smash Brothers?
No, I think they'd be fine doing it. I think
well, we know, of course,
waiting,
I mean, Sakurai is otherwise occupied for the time being.
Right.
We know that much with the Kirby Air Riders thing. That is, still
I can't believe that game is real.
Well,
I still can't believe that game is real.
It's strange that it's real, but B, it's stranger that it's coming out in 2025, which doesn't have that long left to run, right? We're already this far into the year, and it's just a pure CG trailer that they've shown to this point. The fact that if you were going to have something that is so kind of limited, as I'm sure we mentioned when we reacted to the direct, you would have thought it'd be a 26 title, but it's not. So, I mean, I guess that Sakurai has been otherwise occupied, but shortly, may not be, because, maybe that it depends what sort of, post-launch development obligations are involved in this game that we know virtually nothing about. Like, is there going to be DLC? Is there going to be a lot of like ongoing events and, multiplayer balancing and all that sort of rest of it? The kind of the quasi live service kind of stuff. Like, I guess we'll find out, so it might occupy Sakurai for a fair bit longer than even whenever it does come out the rest of the year. But that is really kind of one of the stranger elements of that direct. I mean, you kind of feel like, something from the director of Smash Brothers that's got this kind of quite rare profile, that ever sort of outside of Nintendo, but so deeply associated with it. Should be like a big moment, a big coup, that they put in the present, and that is, they presumably do feel that way. That's why it's in the presentation. And yet, given that it was so insubstantial and what it was, and the fact that it's one of two Kirby things, I don't think it made that much of an impact, did it?
No, not really. Like, it kind of feels like I forget about it sometimes. Like, oh yeah, that's a thing, isn't it? How the fuck is that a thing? Like, there's that weird double ting of like, oh yeah, that is a thing. Wait, that's a thing?
And that's another case, I guess, that we could look at as perhaps a test case in terms of how do they handle that? Do they put Kirby's Air Ride, the GameCube game, on this part of the NSO expansion pack before Kirby's Air Ride, or do they have the similar attitude that we supposed with the DK94, where it's like, oh no, let's leave that for now and then maybe do it later.
That's the part that's like, yeah, that would definitely feel like you're running the risk of undermining that game's success. Because look, Kirby's Air Ride is pretty slight. They're gonna have to do more than what that GameCube game does, and I don't know what that is. I assume they will,
Yeah,
like Sakurai's
the trailer gave us no indication, not even the vaguest kind of hint of how it expands it, other than pluralizing it. That was the extent of it. But I mean, I would be astonished if there isn't some aspect of it that's significantly incorporating the mouse interface. That's one thing I would be really. I know Kirby's Air Ride famous for being a game that had so little with regard to input. You know?
Yeah, the infamous press A not to win.
But yeah, it would be a surprise. Sakurai's enthusiasm for the sort of trackball, in his own work, when he's developing, and the kind of almost emulated trackball with the 3DS touchscreen with Kid Icarus. It's just like, surely there's no way that this thing has mouse controls and he's just going to leave them on the table. Like it might even just be like a mini game or a separate mode, because again there were different modes and things in Kirby's Air Ride, right? So maybe they could do something in that vein, have some kind of component of it that leverages the mouse interface rather than like the core game necessarily. But I'd be surprised if that isn't a factor. But beyond that, I mean, there's very little to say about it at this stage. But I guess it does give us potentially a glimpse into how they're going to handle this kind of stuff in terms of if there's overlap between, something on GameCube and something that you're releasing now. Do you go first with the retro release, or do you go first with the new one, and or do you do the retro release at all? And what sort of lag are we talking about if you're doing both?
I just like the idea that Sakurai is still calling the Kyoto office, begging them to release a trackball accessory for Switch 2. Please, I need this. I need this in my life. All right. So you raise an interesting point. I know it's completely afield, but how bad are the controls going to be to Sakurai's mouse-controlled Kirby Air Riders minigame? I'm thinking completely inscrutable and long-term nerve damage to your fingers.
I was thinking maybe they'd have to like ship it with a perhaps like
coffee table.
A piece of like flame retardant fabric to put on your thigh, because just in case you end up like going so fast that it causes your pants to catch fire, essentially.
Oh, okay.
That's the best analog I've got for the 3DS easel kickstand thing with Kid Icarus.
Does Nintendo have a solution for those of us who don't have tables in our living room? Are they going to send me a cardboard table?
Yeah, exactly.
That I can then, or a folded up plastic table.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, most couch gaming isn't really mouse friendly.
Well, not yet. Nintendo's going to break the door down.
Yeah. Who knows? Maybe they'll have something. Maybe they'll come out with a Labo mouse tray or something.
John, it's the
when
era
you guys
of...
are sitting on your couches, where do you put your drinks? On the floor?
Sometimes, yeah. I mean, I do have an ottoman that I have kind of like a some stuff on.
I have a small end table, but like I
Right.
couldn't mouse on that. It's not positioned in a way that I could use it for that.
Oh, okay.
Because it's kind of to my left and back.
Yeah, I guess I got like the perfect height end table. That's just like I can rest my arm on the armrest or slightly askew on the table. I guess like it would be perfect for that. But
Yeah,
I don't
it wouldn't
know.
work for me.
Yeah, I don't expect everyone to have one. I guess I don't expect Nintendo to send one to everyone either. So like I'm assuming an end table is not going to be included with Kirby Air Riders, but
Not if you keep letting them off the hook.
Right.
John, do you remember Phantom Labs?
Yeah. We're talking the Phantom console.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the Phantom Labs lap desk, remember? The only thing they ever actually released.
I don't remember this.
Oh yeah.
Phantom
oh yeah.
Labs lab desk.
This is the only part the only thing they released was the little lab keyboard thing, lap keyboard thing. It's time. It's back. Phantom Entertainment lap board. That was its name. it's time. Like, we had the ASCII GameCube controller for PSO2. It's time for the lapboard for Switch 2. Like, this is a reference that will only apply to people who have been following games for at least 20 years.
Yeah.
That's upsetting.
Interesting. I did not know about this. Look at that. That's actually kind of neat looking.
Yeah. I mean, the company was a scam, but the lapboard seems interesting.
Yeah.
I don't understand what I'm looking at, though. You're meant to raise the keyboard.
And you can use it like a little mouse.
So you can't use the board and the mouse and keyboard at the same time.
You kind of can. You just have to lift your hands up.
Right, but your keyboard is now like 15 degrees up in the air. Like, it's...
Look, you just want so much from Infinium Labs, Guillaume. They're just trying to give you the optimum couch experience. Oh, God.
Stupid.
For those of you who don't know the Phantom, it's an amazing scam. Mm-hmm. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. We're going to bring PC gaming to your TV, which ironically did happen, not with them, but not the way they envisioned it is the best way to describe it. Yeah, I hope Melee comes to GameCube service. I'm not going to be that petty. I hope it comes with an advisement about hygiene. I hope it introduces exactly 1 frame of delay, and I hope they patch in tripping. But beyond that, I want what you want. God, if they patched in tripping, that would be so good. Actually, no, a bug where if more than one person picks Fox, the game crashes. That's the answer. I don't know. I just feel like they're probably going to release the next... Like, are they going to release a Nintendo Switch 2 edition of
Ultimate?
Yeah.
Again, it's hard to say with that kind of thing. With the sprawling kind of nature of it, and the usual kind of attachment to, like, okay, we basically just don't want to do this or go there unless Sakurai is, kind of very carefully managing it. That sort of attitude that they have with Smash. So again, it would seem like if you're going to do that, it would be contingent, quite likely. I mean, not absolutely necessary, but it seems quite likely that it would be contingent on Sakurai being, okay with it and invested in it and all that kind of thing. And then, I don't know what entanglements you'd have with the extra characters, and whether the deals that were made could be extended to govern another console, a different kind of device, or how many, if any of those have a time, kind of window that's going to close at some point. I mean, that's the thing. I'm kind of surprised we've got this far with NSO, and the only game that's got kicked off for time lapse seemingly is the soccer game, Super Soccer, right? Which was not originally a Nintendo developed game. It was a third party game in Japan, but they kind of as they did when they were launching the NES with stuff like 10-Yard Fight or whatever, they kind of brought it in-house and published it, to beef up the launch lineup to have a decent sort of assortment of sports games, essentially. And that has been delisted because presumably they signed a deal that was only, so many years after the start of NSO, and we've hit that limit. I'm surprised it's just one in that case. But it goes to show you don't necessarily sign the same kind of deals with everybody, right? And so I don't know whether there's any differences with certain aspects, because there's a number of different kind of companies that they dealt with, to say the least, by the end of it, with all the DLC characters. How much that complicates things, I can only assume it does complicate them. I just don't know how much.
Yeah, and it's to your point, it'll be different with every character. Like, what if the thing preventing this is fucking Disney and Sora? Like, what if it's that? Now, an interesting little, hangers on to this question is, if you buy the Switch 2 edition of Breath of the Wild, it does not include the DLC. Now, if you had the DLC on Switch, you'll get it. But if you just buy that game rather than buy the upgrade, you do not get the DLC. Which you normally when you make like next console editions, you just toss the DLC on top. And in fact, Nintendo themselves did that with when they went and made Smash Ultimate. Like Smash Ultimate is very much built on the bones of Mario Kart.
Yeah, I was going to say the best example is Mario Kart Deluxe, 8 Deluxe, isn't it?
Because Smash does do a little bit of it.
Yeah, well, it's everybody's here, right? So the people that were DLC before, like Bayonetta and Ryu or whatever, well, they were there. But yeah, with Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is very obvious. It's like, look, you started off with your kind of regulation, 32 tracks, 16 new, 16 retro, but then they started doing the DLC, which was generally pretty well received. When you get to Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, that's just baked in, and then you've got more stuff. You've got the battle, the battle mode actually being properly implemented at that point, and then of course later on they do the booster course pass and whatnot. But yeah, I know what you mean. A lot of the time that is something they would do, but I guess in this case it's just like, no, it's just that's the core game. And I don't know whether they think maybe some people, you know, just didn't buy the DLC because they played the Breath of the Wild, you know, a great deal. And that, you know, if they're going to finally come back to it after all this time or something, because they want to see it run, you know, at the better frame rate and the better resolution and all on Switch 2, it might tempt them into buying the DLC, you know, and so it's like, no, we're not gonna risk losing those sales, as a result. I don't know. But to be fair, on the flip side of that is the fact that if you're an expansion pack subscriber, you don't even have to pay outright for the upgrade. They're sort of bundling that in.
Right.
Which I have to say, of all the things, the welcome tour thing that's a sort of, you know, meant to show off, you know, the features of the Switch 2 hardware.
Yes. Being
a discrete purchase, and the upgrade to Zelda being something that is, also a discrete purchase, but it can be a subscription perk. Who would have guessed it would be that way round? That seems dramatically backwards to me. I understand that, you know, that welcome tour thing is the kind of thing in the past that, you know, it would be like We Play, right? Where you bundle it in with a controller, and that's how you kind of slip it to people. They are kind of paying for it, but you're kind of making sure that loads of people get it. But you'd think the equivalent of that today would be, oh, well, you know, it's not, you can buy it separately, but really we're saying, you know, if be an NSO subscriber or maybe even an expansion pack subscriber and you'll get it. And no, that's not the case. That's odd to say the least, but there it is.
To me, it really comes down to what does that thing end up being? And I don't know yet. Like, I didn't watch the Treehouse Live segment on it. Like, if there's a whole bunch of stuff in there more than I thought, I could see, like, I can see the justification, but you're right. It wears the trappings of something that is usually packed in with something. Like, even if there isn't
simply the name, Welcome Tour. You know what I mean? I mean, if it's hiding some robust games in there, but under that moniker, I'd suggest that's rather poor, you know, branding at that sort of juncture. So it is. I'm surprised that is not just another thing of the many things at this point that's like, hey, why don't you be a subscriber to NSO, or, you know, or maybe even again an expansion pack subscriber? You go to that more premium tier because you get more stuff like that kind of bundled in at that point. Like I could easily have seen them doing that, and I'm sure there would still have been a certain amount of eyebrow raising at that. You'd be like, yeah, but surely, I mean, this thing that's just designed to convey all the various clever and, you know, sort of novel things that this hardware brings to the table probably shouldn't be hidden behind any kind of paywall. But that would certainly have been a more understandable one than a purely separate purchase. But you know, the point is, I guess, that that line of thought seems much more in line with the idea of not throwing in the Zelda DLC with the new purchase than it does with the allowing it to be an expansion pack perk. That's almost like two cross, you know what I mean? That's two different mentalities at work there for some reason. I'm not really sure.
like my thought on Smash for Switch 2 edition or whatever they call it. Now it does raise questions about could you still play online with people with regular edition, with the Switch edition, which could prove to be pretty divisive because it would sharply divide up the player base. But beyond that, doing that frees them up to continue to add to that platform. So let's say they're able to work, like Disney might actually be the problem here, because of Sora and his fucking clown shoes. But let's say they solve that problem and they solve Square Enix and their unwillingness to allow you to have more than one song, which we'll get to in the next email.
Well, they did kind of get past that, didn't they? Because when they got to
Sephiroth or something,
when they got to Sephiroth, for instance, like they did have more, nothing like what you get with SNK. You know, what I mean, like,
no, SNK's like here's every song that's ever appeared in an SNK game.
A clear I know Dragon Quest has its own hang-ups as well, doesn't it? With
does it?
This idea of like, well, you can't give away like the symphonic versions because we got to hold that back for like the concerts and the albums and the, that. I mean, I assume that's maybe
because
changed.
one cancels out the other, right?
I think that has probably changed a fair bit since the passing of the composer in question, because I think that some of it was his personal wishes in that regard, but I think it still did.
I think that was how he got paid. He got paid by all that side stuff.
Sure. So, but I think that may have affected the Dragon Quest sampling that you got to go with Hero. But they still had some number of songs to go with Hero that was in surplus compared to that first FF7 DLC with Cloud, where it was just like it was literally 2 songs.
It's just a comedically small number of songs. But I mean, there's a stage now, and there's all that. It's like it would actually be kind of a shame for this game to just end like that, like unceremoniously not make the jump. Like it feels like a good candidate for a Switch 2 edition. Because you could maybe deal with some of the slowdown that pops up in the game. Maybe you could make it render out at 4K, or at least use some kind of upscaling to get to 4K.
Yeah, and also, too, is it really, I mean, this game is I'm sure developing it was such a titanic undertaking.
Oh, yeah.
Why do that again? I guess, what would Nintendo gain from that, really? Because I think that people would be perfectly happy, much like they clearly were with Mario Kart, to just have a better version of the existing game, and they would roll with that and sell a ton of it. Like, they could Mario Kart 8 Deluxe the hell out of this. Does
Sakurai have it in him to make another one of these things? Like, eventually they will have to figure that out, but...
Yeah, sure. I mean, this is the thing, like, where do you go? When this is clearly his magnum opus, where do you go from there?
No, and I mean, obviously, many things are called Ultimate, and I'm nothing of the kind. But I mean, they really they went for it with it. They were like, we're gonna shoot every shot we've got, and I mean, with Sora and Kingdom Hearts, like I think there was some suggest like it wasn't supposed to be the last one. But it took that long to get all the agreements kind of straightened out, basically, including like doing the amiibo and all that stuff. Yeah, so I mean, they pushed the boat out about as far as they could go, and that's the Sakurai's got the kind of clout seemingly that he can make Nintendo push the boat out for stuff like that. A lot of the time, I think they'd probably ask themselves, is this worth the trouble? And say no, because they're quite, they're relatively quite sort of, ruthless when it comes to like, no, well, if something's actually going to help us make more money, we'll do it. If not, then we're not just going to spend money for prestige or, some sort of, ego trip or anything like that. It's got to be demonstrably, appealing to, improving the returns on the product. So, Yeah, Smash is a special case, and that's one of the things that, with regard to Sakurai and all that. I mean, maybe even that is some sort of impediment with the older Smash games coming out on NSO in terms of having them running online. I mean, I've got to say, with N64 games on NSO, it's demanding to do something like Smash satisfactorily there, and if you do it sort of like Mario Party or the Pokemon Stadium like games or something, I mean that's one thing, but with Smash, the fact that sometimes it can want to pause because, it hasn't got any, with those sorts of, when it's emulating people playing in the same room on the same console with, oftentimes, split screen. If it's something like F-Zero, obviously Smash does not have split screen, but, it can't kind of cheat the way that something like Mario Kart can, when as a new game, with players' inputs, it's got to be sort of synchronized. So you will get these points where it just kind of, even if it's running okay for quite a bit of the time, where it just kind of has to stop to let things kind of catch up and stuff. So I have no idea if that's any part of it, whether it's just like somewhere, it's been presented to Sakurai for approval and he's just given it the thumbs down. Like, nah, it's not. The online play is not good enough, which would be, ironic considering how Brawl shipped.
Oh my god!
On Wii, but times moved on. Maybe its standards have changed.
It's purely hypothetical online play. I actually think doing doing some up-resing, doing some performance stuff is worth $10 to me. Definitely. There's a few other things that they could probably clean up a little bit in the Switch 2 version. They could take the lead from what they did with the icons on the Switch upgrade, which we should probably talk about. The Switch version upgrade, where they went and they excised the old and banned Donkey Kong design and replaced him with the new Donkey Kong design. I have DK as my profile icon, and I logged in. I'm like, that's the new DK. What did they do? A bunch of other characters got very slightly touched up images. I'm almost wondering if it was just so they can have ones better suited for a 4K system. But DK got fully new DK'd. Almost like when they replace an actor in a sitcom with a different actor, but they leave the role in, and everyone acknowledges. No one acknowledges that anything's changed.
Well, it's sort of it's
he got Dick Yorked. Although Dick York died, so I guess that's not.
I think Charlie Sheen is a better example.
But at least that was a different character
on 2.5 Men. Yeah, I guess. Okay, yeah. All right, fair enough.
Yeah, the Bewitched is the great example where they just replaced the actor who died with a different actor who looks nothing like him, and no one ever acknowledges it. Mm-hmm. Just heads down. Just pretend.
Just act like it's Dick.
That's right. Well, it is. It's just a different Dick. It's the only thing that matches. They have the same first name.
Yeah.
Just act like it's Dick.
Who did they replace him with?
925.
Who did they replace him with? This is so hilarious. It's like I hope the people that actually know what the hell we're talking about really appreciate this conversation.
They replaced the actor.
The fact that I know who Dick York is actually impresses me.
Dick Sargent. It's amazing. That's just the only thing that matches is that they had the same first name. Nothing else. They're wildly different physically. Insofar as you could be wildly different in 1960s and 70s U.S. sitcoms, which is to say they're both still white men in their 40s. But there's something like they just came in the middle of the night and took out the old DK and replaced him with the new one and pretended like nothing ever happened. It's what if they just replaced the old DK and the Smash for Wii U, or Switch 2 edition? Excuse me. Wii U, Jesus. The Switch 2 edition, and they just replaced it with the new DK and refuse to elaborate.
Yeah, well, I mean, really, you'd like that to be a toggle kind of thing, like the two Warios, like Wario Land Wario and WarioWare Wario, or Bayonetta 1 and 2 Bayonetta, or that kind of thing would be ideal, but rather than just leaving it completely out.
In principle, I agree with you, but from a pure comedy standpoint, if 2 days after the release of the game, there's a patch, which there would be, and all that patch does is change the DK for the new DK. Like, they forgot to do it before release. That would be the funniest shit they've done in years.
What I'm imagining is some sort of like meta patch that goes out across all Nintendo games with DK in it. It's DK Order 66. All the old DKs get killed at once.
How did they patch my Super Nintendo cartridge?
Hey, NSO at least, they're on there. They get the ROM sprite ROM hacks to get him out of there. I'd be beautiful.
My
if that
DK Land 1 cartridge is different. They changed the art on the cover of my DK. It was like a sticker stuck over his face. Did they come in my house in the middle of the night?
This just makes it. I know when they did the first Witch 2 teaser, and we had the glimpse of Mario Kart World,
right?
And within that, the glimpse of a revised DK design. And I said then, it was just like, I anticipated that they were going to do something with a different DK design after seeing what he looked like in the movie and all that. And then they did all the theme park stuff, and it's just straight
which has the old
design, everything
Did they
from
not tell Universal?
And it's like, I'd kind of given up on it, and now, like, this is just so 180 degrees in the other direction of just like, now we're just taking, the furry Battletoad DK out back and shooting him. Where did this come from?
I'm worried if I pull up that animated image of somebody in a DK costume jumping out from behind a wall when they had kids demoing Donkey Kong Land Returns 3D.
That probably is better being excised from history, from Nintendo's point of view, anyway.
I'm worried that I'm going to pull that up and it'll be a guy in the new DK suit.
Yeah, they've just AI'd it. Yeah, they've used AI manipulation of the image to make it look
How did you guys get to this? It was saved on my computer. What the fuck? Like, it was very funny to see. It's like they changed the DK. They didn't add a new DK. No.
It's a bit. I mean, it's meaningless, obviously, but like it's a bit off though. I mean, you didn't choose.
It just feels weird.
You chose that DK, you know what I mean? Like,
I chose that DK because he looks stupid. Like, that was the whole point.
Yeah, I'm not. Like we said with the other ones, presumably where it's just more like a fidelity thing, and they might slightly look different, like with an expression or something. That's but when it's just a significantly different design, I don't feel like that's okay to just swap it on people. There will be people that earnestly like the furry Battletoad DK. Obviously, I mean.
I don't understand why,
that
but yes,
was the
I agree
way
they will
he looked
exist.
for like 30 years and in some very popular games, so like
number 3 on the worst fans list of the day.
There's no way that there isn't genuine affection and attachment to that design out there. There's just, and they know that, but it's just to swap the icon out on people. I feel
it's funny. It's very funny.
I everything I've seen so far suggests that I think it's the new design is just going to be more, malleable. You can just do more with it. Yeah. You know what I mean? Rather than having sort of a limited range of expression, and it just seems more true to the origins of the character and everything, and just less 90s. But equally, like, let people keep their icon.
Nintendo today, a few days ago, because I'm still checking this dumbass app every day, had a 22-second video that was just the new DK making faces. That was it, and it was called DK Expressions Volume 1. And I'm like, oh god, they're gonna do like 4 of these fucking things. It's literally just him going, oh. Rah! And then the video ends. That's it. That's the whole video. It's amazing.
Amazing. It's like quality content.
Today it's the worst app in the world. It's so beautiful. Like so here's I know we're way out of the email, but I just had to say it. I'm falling in love with this stupid app because it just constantly gives me what I don't want. It is a remarkable display of just like, hey, we think we know what you want. We are going to stridently do everything in our power to not do that. How about instead, a 3D model of the GameCube controller. And my immediate thought is, okay, but why? Like, but really, why? And Nintendo's answer is, we don't know. Here it is. Enjoy. But you can rotate it on both the X-axis and the Y-axis, John, but not at the same time.
It
not
really
at the
is.
same time.
It really is content for content's sake.
I'm not even sure it's that.
Yeah.
It's like a facsimile of content for content's sake.
Yeah, like the Metroid stuff, it's like, oh, cool, like maybe they'll go deep into some sort of backstory or something, but no, it's just like, here, this is a monster. This monster's in Metroid. Oh, okay.
All right. I've got one for you. What is the most insipid Switch 2 specific accessory? And I'm defining accessory as not the system itself, something that you attach to, put in, connect to. What is the most insipid thing you could make a 3D model viewer for the Switch 2?
I would say the camera.
No, you're both wrong. Try again. They already did the wheel, though.
Yeah, well, they did the wheel.
What, like a 3D model of the dock or something?
You're getting warmer.
Wow.
Even stupider.
Oh, right. No, I know this.
Guillaume, would you care to tell them?
The HDMI cable?
No!
No?
But that would be stupid.
That would be
pretty sure that's
amazing.
a thing.
The game card. They did a 3D model of the game card.
Oh my god.
It's a rectangle.
I guess. I mean,
it's a red rectangle.
I can't say I'm all right. I'm gonna open my Nintendo app here against my better judgment.
Good.
That's just
okay, look at this. I'm posting something. A link. Will this work?
In the days of the Smash Dojo in the run-up to Brawl, we thought that Sakurai was pushing it a bit when he'd have like a box. He'd have like the big wooden crate that the items were going to just. Well, that's what it looks like in this game.
But that was fun because there was always this weird like self-important text that went with it. Whoa, a box! What could be in there? Anything could be in there. It could even be a box. It's like, dude, calm down. It's a fucking box.
No, he would always try and make the entry as fun as he could, which, I mean, sometimes there was just no... There was no dressing it up. I mean, it's a box. But, other times it was more interesting, obviously.
Bumpers is always stuck in my head because there was there still is the Smash whatever forum. I can't remember what it's called. But like it had a bunch of fucking sociopaths on it at that point, Melee fans. And I mean, they were Melee fans. Like it was Brawl. Like it legitimately, like I'm not even making the joke. And
no, that was the most recent Smash game, and it was very, very popular.
And these were like the worst people in that community. So they were in there just freaking out every time. It was like before the dojo got posted. And I would check it before I went to bed. 'Cause I had my internship in the morning. And I remember Bumper sticks in my head because they did like a song and then they did like some other shit for a few days. And they hadn't done any characters in a while. They hadn't done any stage or anything. It was just like minor things. And like, for whatever reason, that community, like, is, I guess, presaging there's a direct coming this week. I can feel it. Bullshit. They convinced themselves that like Thursday was the day. Thursday into Friday was the day. That was the day we're going to get a new character. And it just starts with the word bumpers! ! And that whole fucking message board lost its mind. They were so mad at a promise that was unfulfilled that was never made.
So, did bumpers, they were in the N64 game and they went away for Melee? So,
I believe that is correct, yes.
So I guess the problem is Sakurai may have conveyed a certain degree of enthusiasm of just like, they're back, aren't you really glad they're back? And yeah, probably, especially if you just people coming from a Melee perspective, it's just like, I didn't know they existed in the first place. I don't care. I just want my whatever it was. They're probably asking for Sora back then or something.
I just remember explicitly, like, there was a thread, like a master thread for the updates, but somebody just creating a thread that was just called bumpers! And it was like, who the fuck cares about this shit? Why is it bumpers? Give us the character Sakurai. And I just remember cackling to myself as I was like, I'm supposed to be in bed right now, but I just scrolling and laughing hysterically. So bumpers will live rent-free in my brain forever. Like, people say Smash, I immediately think of bumpers, which is not healthy and not beneficial to my long-term stability as a person. But, hey, bumpers should come to the Wii U Virtual Console.
Well, if they do, if they do a Smash Brothers something, anything on Switch 2, then presumably on the Nintendo Today app at some point, because it's
fuck yes.
I mean, whatever you think of that item, it's the various installments of Smash
3D
that it's been
model
in.
bumpers.
It's more interesting than the game card, isn't it? Which we already knew was the exact same shape as the existing cards.
But it's red, Greg.
It's got a new color.
Maybe it's got a new. Maybe it's cherry flavored this time. Would you like 4 screenshots of Baby Mario from Mario Kart World? I know I don't, but here they are. Here's all 4 of them. What a world. What a Nintendo today. What a Nintendo today. I guess to put a bow on this, if they did make a Switch 2 version, that might not require a ton of Sakurai involvement.
Yeah, I assume it's at least going to be sort of approval or blessing, right? Like that would be seemingly the minimum. I don't think it seems like they, maybe they got burned a little bit, that time where was it the 05 E3 or whatever, where it was like, yeah, we're doing a new Smash Brothers, and they had not consulted Sakurai in the slightest at that point when they said that. And
he was in the room.
A lot of things have changed since then in terms of the leadership and the fortunes of the company and how many more Smash Brothers games there've been and stuff, but you've got to feel like, they never want to really tread outside that sort of respectful zone ever again, right. Seemingly. Especially because the bottom line is, I mean, good Lord, Ultimate sold so many, hasn't it? They've been kind of rewarded for it ultimately, haven't they? They've just reaped the dividends big time. How many it sold? Yeah. Even if I'm sure, like I said, there were times when they felt like they were going to, extra sort of pains and lengths that they wouldn't go to, even for something as successful as Mario Kart. You can't argue with it when it delivers the way that has.
Agreed. All right, let's read one more email.
But there is the F-Zero part. Quickly, we do need.
Yeah. Sorry, go.
Well, it just on the question of it does any of this? It's very much the first question again to a degree. The Fire Emblem question again, because it's like, yes, we're getting to the point where we've got a comprehensive selection of F-Zero. So, although I'm in the DD expansion kit, I guess, if you want to get like really specific about things that we haven't got, or some of the Satellaview stuff has been like folded into F-Zero 99, which is quite nice. Yeah. It is really pleasing to see how comprehensive the stuff coming to Switch Online has been. I'd love to be wrong, but I don't think it's particularly hinting necessarily at something new. No. It just, the best time for this kind of game is at launch, right? I mean, that's why we're getting fast again at launch, right?
Yeah.
Right. For like the 3rd system in a row.
Yeah. So the fact that, and I get it, like if you're going to have Mario Kart as your launch title, which I completely endorse that decision commercially. Like it makes way too much sense. I mean, it was close to being, a launch title with the Switch. It was just like, essentially in the bonanza slot, right? Like, a month after the system came out, but it wasn't quite a launch title in that case, but it's proven itself to the point where it's you feel comfortable. You feel comfortable with that being your big launch game. You're going to end up packing it in with systems and all. But that's the thing with that there. It wouldn't make terribly much sense, I guess, to have F-Zero, also there, right? You're not going to have to, I know, of course it would be different. It'd be trying to appeal to a smaller, a more niche audience, a different kind of audience, presumably, if you were doing an F-Zero a new one at this point. But still, it's too kind of, to the extent that it is duplicative, it's too duplicative to justify taking up a slot in the launch lineup. Perhaps even more so, given what we've already said about Kirby Air Riders existing
right.
as well. Presumably is going to be somewhat based on racing action, if not like exclusively. So yeah, I mean, it just that the idea of bringing it back as part of a launch window or certainly launch day, that ship has already sailed seemingly. So then it's like, would you do it later? And I feel like doesn't rule it out, of course, but I feel like if you were going to give it the best chance to succeed, it would have been, in the run up to the new system coming out, and that is not going to be the case. So I'm kind of down on the chances.
Yeah. All right, Greg, would you read our last email?
Sure. AG writes, greetings all. Yoko Shimomura received the BAFTA Fellowship at the Academy's Games Awards this week, to a room of standing ovations from all the other nominees for the other awards. As part of the recorded footage before she accepted her award, a few games and their soundtracks were shown off, including Super Mario RPG, Xenoblade, Final Fantasy 15 and Kingdom Hearts 3. What Yoko Shimomura soundtrack would you choose to show off her work and celebrate some of the best music this art form has produced? Any particular individual tracks stand out for you, or do you see her game soundtracks as collectives? Cheers.
Ooh. So, like, I'm looking at the list right now, because I'm trying to think, is there like an album here that it's like, or a game where it's like, no, that game collectively is it? And I besides maybe Radiant Historia, I don't know that I've got one. Like, Radiant Historia is unbelievable. Like, legitimately, as a piece of music, it is a complete product. Might be the best way of putting it. Like, there's a lot of like one-off songs that she did really well in. Also, for a while there was a redeem on the NWR Twitch account that was like Italy music, and it was just this fucking awful piece that she wrote, of all people. But I mean, like, obviously her Street Fighter 2 stuff is her best known, just because of its sheer long-term existence. I don't know the best way to write it.
Super Mario RPG also.
Yeah, I'm always a little uncomfortable with how much credit she gets for Xenoblade Chronicles. Like, she did write more of that game soundtrack than she did any of the other ones. But like, she wasn't setting the agenda for what that game sounded like. Like,
Mitsuda was still the sort of overall producer, supervisor of the soundtrack, like he was for all the other ones, right? But I don't think Shimomura's contributed any of the other ones after, right?
I thought she contributed one song to two.
Okay, well, perhaps so, yeah. But certainly nothing like the kind of solid proportion that you got in the first one. I would say clear.
She was probably the second or third most involved like, Kyoto did the yeoman's work on that soundtrack. I need a song for the Nopon village. Oh God. All right. Let me get on that.
No, I mean, that's the thing when you have, say, these sorts of soundtracks a lot of the time. It did happen to the Final Fantasy series, right? You transition from, Uematsu is doing all the games and he's doing all the songs in the games to the soundtrack's just too big, for that to really be feasible or desirable. So you start to progress to more, you're going to have a number of different composers, and then perhaps, you've got somebody, as has been the case with Mitsuda with the Xenoblade games, who's going to oversee the whole thing, set the direction of like, okay, this is what the kind of feel that we're going for. This might be the kind of instruments that we're going for, all that kind of thing. And then it's up to everyone to collaborate and deliver on the vision there. And so, Shimomura's work has ended up being, in a number of cases, has ended up being in that kind of capacity, right, where you contribute some songs rather than the whole thing. I mean, another would be, I believe, Kid Icarus Uprising, with Sakurai put together a bit of a, kind of super group of composers to build out that soundtrack that included Mitsuda, and Shimomura and Sakuraba, I want to say.
Yeah, there's definitely music in there that has to have come from Sakuraba's hands.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's kind of, more, as time's gone on, the cases where it's just like a singular product of one composer's sort of style and all is diminished. For sure, yeah. So, I mean, in terms of the early stuff, AG also cited Street Fighter 2, which it might not be something that's always going to be on the tip of the tongue when it comes to Shimomura, because, of course, did kind of move on after that and, became more associated with RPGs, even ones that might be quite different in tone, right? From the more kind of dramatic sort of stylings, of various kind of something like Xenoblade, for instance, to the very kind of comedic or sort of fanciful stuff of the Super Mario RPGs, or indeed the Mario and Luigi games that she did a lot of stuff on as well. So yeah, it kind of, that's probably what most people think of, but as AG points out, like Street Fighter 2, all-time classic soundtrack, right? I mean, some of it is probably just because of how much that game endures in, right. How much, obviously it had all the different versions and, the even beyond the different iterations of Street Fighter 2. The themes for the characters keep coming back in, might be the alpha games or, the much later, Street Fighter 4, all these different things. But, there's just so many classic themes in that. And indeed, I think Shimomura got to basically riff off one of those, of her own work when she did the Live Alive soundtrack for Square, right? Because there was one that was basically, there's a track in that is basically like a very slightly modified Ken's theme, I believe. So, I mean, and that was, just shortly after Street Fighter 2, came out relatively. It was only like 4 years or something between those. But, that's the thing is like, that was a huge, huge thing that was relatively early in her career and, has massive legacy. So that definitely shouldn't be forgotten.
We've used Radiant Historia as the outro music, but I think we used the piano tracks, which was this album that Atlas had commissioned of piano decompositions of some of the music in that game. At some point, we should probably use, it's got a weird mix of music in it, because if you've never played it, it's a really somber game. Like, it is consistently trying to be very somber. It never feels like things are going well. It always feels like you're just kind of inching by. And there's a few songs in there that have this really sort of melancholy to them. But there is one song, I believe it's called The Edge of Green, which is a battle theme, even though the name doesn't imply it should be a battle theme. That does a lot with the DS sound hardware is how I would describe it. I do not believe it is like pure recorded music. But
yeah, because I mean that obviously did exist on DS, but a lot of the time it had to get crunched down pretty hard. You'd hear the compression on it. If it was something like, for instance, I always think of Days of Ruin, Advance Wars. That had certain tracks that where the instrument quality or the complexity of it was kind of going beyond what you generally get on DS, but that meant, it was a compressed file rather than being generated by the hardware.
Right. Red Locust is another song off there that's kind of reminds me of some of the stuff she had done in previous years, but maybe more complex. Like, if you go walk through her stuff, you could see her composition style mature a bit. I actually think she's relatively easy to do this with. Cause I mean, like, if you're gonna be like, what's her most well-known song? Maybe not well-known that it's her, but like, Guile's theme is right there. And it's just sitting there staring you in the face, and it's hard to find much else. But,
yeah,
like, if you were to do this with somebody like Yasunori Mitsuda, good fucking luck! Have you ever looked at that man's, like, composition history? It's so long. It is the longest. And there's so, like, I could make an argument that Chrono Cross is his most stunning achievement. But then I have to reconcile the fact there's 3 Xenoblade soundtracks that have his fingerprints all over them.
And that's different again because it's less like there's a lot of different people working on those games, but he's setting the template.
He's the one hiring the Gaelic pan flute band to fly to Japan.
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah. One thing I'll note about Shimomura's contributions to the first one that I think is unique is that I think with the title themes for the Xenoblades, 2 and 3 and the expansions, DLC, chapters that went with them. I think Mitsuda always did the composition for the melodies, at least for what those title themes would be. That somebody else might arrange them into the piano version. Right. But he composed the piece of music. But with the first Xenoblade, I think that is just Shimomura all the way through. That is her composition and arrangement.
You're correct.
And it's got a lot of, that is very, very recognisably Shimomura because you got the piano part of it, which, like you said, that's one thread you've got in a lot of her stuff when it is more melancholy. It's that, you can recognise it from, some of the other times that she's done stuff like that. The strings as well, there's just something about the strings in Shimomura stuff that has a particular sound to it that's there. But then even in something as kind of, very kind of deliberately like emotive and as that piece is, you get a little bit of that urgent news bulletin kicking in.
Yes.
That is not purely a Shimomura thing. That is like, there's plenty of JRPGs that have that urgent news bulletin kind of rhythm to them for battles a lot of the time. But that creeps in to the title theme as it kind of builds and then resolves before it dies back down to where it started. And all of that taken together is like, this is, absolute, just quintessentially Yoko Shimomura. And it's the title theme for the game. Like that is, I think, a little bit of a different kind of balance of power, for the lack of a better term, on that first Xenoblade than what came after. Right. I feel like.
Let's be clear, she's composed an absolute shitload of games. Interestingly, she also worked with Mitsuda on Terra Battle, which Terra Battle apparently has an incredibly expensive soundtrack. And none of us played it, but you have to deal with Kingdom Hearts because, she composed that whole fucking series, and that includes all the weird cell phone bullshit.
No, I played the rhythm game. I've never played the actual games, but I enjoyed that because a lot of the time, again, there's because that series, has a lot of very bouncy, very kind of sort of playful themes to it because of the nature of it, of course, and they can remind you of Mario RPG and Mario Luigi and so forth. But of course, it does go more dramatic places, and then that'll remind you more of things you might have done, like Legend of Mana or Xenoblade, or So I found that to be a very enjoyable Shimomura journey. That you didn't really need to. I'm sure it's a significantly richer experience if the visuals and all the narrative that it's connected to actually resonates with you. But if you enjoy her music, you can very much just enjoy it on that basis.
I didn't know she worked on Remaster, which is upsetting to me because every time I see the word Remaster, I get mad. It's just that game upsets me so much because the name is, we combined this Spanish word for king for what the Latin word, the Greek word for natural. This is natural king, born king. I'm like, you don't get to do that, you fucks. Get out of here with that shit. Oh, it's the most upsetting game. It's the most upsetting game. Thank you for that. It is interesting.
Natsume Atari? What is that?
No idea. Terrifying thought. I think the thing with somebody who's been in the industry as long as any of the people we've talked about have, is just that there is like an arc to their career that then, maybe they get typecast a little bit You know, we've talked about this with Mr. Dueling Guitars himself, but like there is a certain amount of, you know, a growth that they have as a composer where it'd be like, I would really like to put, you know, their later content, because it's probably the most complicated. It's probably the most thought out, maybe the most reflective, but some of their earlier stuff might have the most like, I'm just gonna go for it. Like, screw it. Let's go. Like I just had the Legend of Mana soundtrack up and the Radiant Historia one, and those games aren't that far apart chronologically, but they sound oceans apart in terms of like what's being done with complex rhythms. Not that she couldn't have done complex rhythms at that point. It's just where she found herself in her career at that point. Like what was of interest at that moment to her. That's really interesting and makes this question super difficult. For Mitsuda, like I'm sure you've probably thought of 1,000 things like, oh yeah, Mitsuda, all of his Xenoblade work, great, thumbs up. That's how you'd represent him. No. You got to represent him with Kid Icarus Uprising. No, thank you. What about like his work for another good example? Xenogears. Oh yeah, Chrono Cross and Chrono Trigger. That's got to be it, right? Right? What if I told you Stella Glow? Fucking Stella Glow, a game you've probably never heard of and are better off for it. But he fucking composed his ass off for that weird ass 3DS game. Like, it's an interesting conversation just because you get to see the full like breadth of what some of these like long running composers do and have done and continue to do, and how they continue to grow and evolve. It's fun. It's really fun to watch. Also, there is a remarkable amount of overlap where like one of these two has a game and then the other one composes a single song. Like Half Minute Hero: The Second Coming, which is apparently Mitsuda has a guest song on, but it's her game. Why does that little game need both of these people? It is fascinating. God, he composed all the Inazuma 11 games. Why? Where did they find the money to hire this man for a bunch of Inazuma 11 games?
Maybe he took a discount for it just because he loves the Inazuma 11 games so much.
Well, I mean, there is something very appealing about those games in that you watch one middle schooler kick a ball so hard it summons the spirit of a dragon and then smashes directly into the face of another middle schooler, potentially sending them into their death. Every like goalie trying to stop special shot and getting absolutely obliterated in that game looks like death. It's amazing and I love it. It's just like watching 12-year-olds get their faces absolutely plastered by like the spirit of a fire bear heaving the ball at them as it bursts into flames like a meteorite. Maybe he just loves that. Maybe he just loves watching 12-year-olds get their faces rearranged. I don't blame him. The kids are really annoying at 12. It's for the best. It's for the best. Wire their jaw closed. They can't talk back. There you go. We did it. This is about music. This is about good music, and we got to that, Eric.
Well, one thing I would say that Shimomura herself went back to a lot is the was it Beware the Forest Mushrooms or whatever from Super Mario RPG. Like that is something that got like just a sort of component of that melody would show up almost always in at least one song in a Mario and Luigi RPG game. It would be sort of snuck in. It's not like Totaka's song where you've got to wait, 40 seconds in silence for it to show up or anything. It'd be weaved into, another song proper, but you just get that little sort of moment of that reprised somewhere in the game. So, clearly that was something that, she wanted to kind of maybe just draw that lineage back to, the original Super Mario RPG when, for a long time, obviously it wasn't that easy for Nintendo to kind of acknowledge it, necessarily because, with Square and the original characters of theirs that were in it and whatnot. But, that obviously meant something to her. And it is, quite one of the memorable parts of that game. But it's just that soundtrack in general is, very memorable. It gives the game a very particular kind of identity, I'd say. It helps kind of establish it. This kind of fact that it's like, well, yeah, it's the Mario characters, but it's kind of its own thing. And it helps kind of couch that in your mind instantly, as well as just working, as, background music in itself.
I almost wonder what would be more interesting if you sat down Shimomura and said, all right, you have one album's worth of music, because we're doing this in Japan where they still sell CDs. You have one album's worth of music, roughly 45 minutes. Build it out of your discography. Like, build that album. Build your best of, like this is 1994. Or it'd be more interesting to go to a peer who's worked with her, and you could say this about any of the composers, and say, no, you make it. You pick the songs that you think best represent her career. Or again, if you were to use Mitsuda, have somebody that's worked with him a bunch of times go you pick the songs that best represent his career. I'd be curious what would be a more interesting, selection. I kind of feel like it'd be hard to do it for yourself and be as reflective on where you've been and because you're going to be self-conscious about anything. Whereas somebody from the outside might be more willing to pick something newer or older and show the full arc. Whereas if it was your own stuff, you might feel more inclined to just play the hits, if that makes sense. But yeah, like somebody who knows music better than me, I'd be really interested in hearing, when they listen to these songs, what are they picking up on? What are the melody components that I'm not hearing because my ear is not as trained as theirs are? That is, grabbing them and shaking them and going, you need to pay attention to this. It's important. Because there's definitely stuff there. Occasionally with a song like this, I'll catch something and I'm like, oh, that was important. I can't believe I never noticed that. And it makes me recontextualize how a song was put together. I'd be really interested in hearing a composer or a musician. Could be musicians. It doesn't necessarily be another composer. Could be somebody who she's worked with as the actual performance component of it. How they would look at her career and sort of divide it up, knowing you've got a very finite amount of time, 45 minutes technically it's 43, to string together the best representation of what this person has done in their career arc. I think that'd be a really interesting challenge, honestly, that I'm not good enough to do. Otherwise, I would do it as an article series at NWR, but I don't have that kind of skill necessary to pull that off. I could just tell you what I think looks good.
One thing in terms of reflecting on her own work that I know she did do. I'm not sure. It's probably not entirely unique among Smash Brothers remixes. I assume there are other cases where someone remixed their own song, but I guess it's kind of interesting with Shimomura doing a Street Fighter 2 remix for Smash. Because, of course, moving on from Capcom and all that, it's kind of not necessarily something she would have kept coming back to again and again and again, the way obviously Capcom did, right? The other composers for Capcom kept reworking those themes over and over again. But it's kind of interesting for her to actually, in this kind of setting, get her hands back on her own work. And, it's it depends which naming scheme you go with either Vega or Balrog, but the Spanish masked character. That remix in Smash Ultimate is fantastic. I mean, the original song's great, to be fair. That might be my favourite of the Street Fighter 2 themes, but the remix is even, more rich and wonderful.
That is an amazing remix. It really is. Did Sakuraba do his own music in Smash? Like, did he do valedictorian?
Again, there's so many, it's hard to believe that there aren't, quite a few of those. But obviously, I guess some of the appeal of those remixes is giving it to someone else and doing a different spin on it. So I wouldn't think they're that terribly common. But that is the one that always stuck out to me of like, oh, she's actually getting to, do Street Fighter again. And it's awesome.
I could see doing it. For in Sakuraba's case, for like the Golden Sun games, where he had to write those for the fucking GBA sound shit. It's like, okay, but now you don't. Now you get to write it for whatever you want. Go nuts. And getting to hear him contextualize what this song would have sounded like if I had all I wanted at the time, but I don't. He might not have, actually. Interesting. But yeah, I'm fascinated by the idea of having your peers put together like a eulogy for your career, if for lack of a better word. Like, here it is. This is the best of. No, he did do some of his own work. Okay. But yeah, you're right. It's not that common. Even when people who were on it worked on the song. Because the Xenoblade melody was done by Ace. They did work on Xenoblade, but it didn't just include Ace music, if that makes sense.
Yeah, sure, because it goes through quite a... If it's the one I'm thinking of, that particular medley, it runs through a bunch of different types. Like some of it's like field themes, some of it's battle themes, and it definitely wouldn't just be silo to their part of the soundtrack. It would be covering multiple people's contributions.
Yep. Anybody else have a like this is their song?
No, not really, except that one of the first few tunes in Super Mario RPG was running on a loop in my head during this discussion. So I guess that would be the one, like the initial town's music. Anyway, and I don't even it's not a game that I've spent significant time with, so I guess it had something going for it. But otherwise, yeah, Guile's theme, and I can't pick just like one title, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it would be something from Super Mario RPG. But more importantly, Natsume Atari used to be just Natsume.
Mm-hmm.
The name Natsume was retained by both companies in their respective countries. In 2013, Natsume Company Limited renamed itself Natsume Atari following a merger with its subsidiary Atari Inc., which is a pachinko company,
of
course, not to be confused with the American game company that year.
I mean, Atari is a Japanese term, I guess.
Yeah. Since 2016, Natsume Atari's division Tengo Project has developed modern remakes to classic video games.
The idea of merging with your subsidiary feels weird. It's like, they're your subsidiary, bro.
Yeah, it feels really strange.
It's like you own them already.
But it's like, oh, it's a pachinko company? Oh, of course. All right.
It's like
that makes it feel normal.
It's like me merging with my house. It's like I own it.
Exactly. It's like really it's not really a merger, it's just really more preference.
I've rearranged the how I want my name to show up on things.
Yeah, and I mean you're merging with your subsidiary, but you're not even dropping the subsidiary's name. So, I mean, that's just something to me that just speaks like this is a way we can cook the books.
Yeah, or man, if we didn't have the pachinko company, we'd be fucked. We'd be turbo fucked.
Yeah.
So
that's exactly it. Now we can mask our losses under our incredibly profitable pachinko company.
That's right. We're good now. We did it. Oh man.
Yep.
I wonder who's written more. What famous Japanese composer has written more pachinko music? This is the new research item for the week. I will report.
Somebody has to be the pachinko music king or queen.
Oh sure, but it's probably somebody we know.
This is the guy.
It's probably we're gonna get there and it's gonna be like I don't know. It's going to be like Ace Plus. Oh, they compose the best pachinko music. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, somebody is out there and they're like, me from my video game music, but I got fat off of pachinko music.
I just want to find out that Sawano writes pachinko music.
Yep.
Why?
It's like they're laying in their pool, sipping a margarita.
Laying in their pool of tiny metal balls.
Right. And they're like, pachinko bought me this pool.
Pachinko bought me this life.
Not Radiant Historia, pachinko.
That's right. Fuck Radiant Historia, pachinko for life.
Yeah. You nerds like Radiant Historia. I like my pachinko Skrilla.
We've got too many titles now. We had a good one at the start of the episode, but
there's a lot.
Now we've got like 6. And I didn't write any of them down besides pachinko's Skrilla.
DK Order 66 is pretty good. Pachinko Skrilla is pretty good. DK Order 66 is pretty great.
No! That sounds like it's coming from DK.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Anyway, we need to take a break. Because this has gone off the rails.
It's the new one that's giving the order, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, okay. Okay. I'm back on the DK Order 66.
They've even got like a DK hoodie, haven't they, on the Nintendo pop-up store? Like that's what he's wearing. It's like he's just covering half of his face. He sounds pretty sinister. I said that
to the girlfriend. I'm like, eh? And the response I got was just no. I'm like, okay. But you know how I felt dejected when I said it. It was kind of like DK. Okay, just like yeah, we're there. We did it. The hood has the little hair. I don't know what you would call that. Little hair dewlap. I kind of want to wear that to Universal Studios in the 175-degree heat of the grand opening of the Nintendo Land Park. Because they're opening in June, because fuck you, that's why. Alright, well, we're going to take a break. And I'm going to go make sure that all the DK animatronics are replaced at the theme park that isn't open yet, but are the wrong DK styling before they open next month. So when we come back, we will do probably some new business. I don't know. We'll find out together. Be a surprise. We have returned to you, faithful listener, and you did not escape us. We're back. And so now we're going to regale you with tales of gaming that we have engaged in. And by that, I mean, I don't have anything to tell you about. You know what I've been doing? I've been going back to Xenoblade every couple days and going like, I should farm more gear and try to kill the Telethia some more. And like, I'm never going to be one of those guys that kills the Telethia 300 times. It just isn't going to happen. I know that. You know that. We all know that. But I can kill him 15, I can kill him 20, I can kill him 33, which is my new personal best. But yeah, I don't have anything else to talk about. And so, Greg, what have you been up to?
Yes, well, lots of Xenoblade, as we mentioned at the very beginning. Yeah, with the draft, it's made for some RPGing on the Switch in portable play, as it's been the last couple of years working through Torna last year and Future Redeemed the year before that. So yeah, I mean, I've been trundling along at a sort of respectable pace, but this has definitely juiced it to a fair bit further along now. So what are we, like 6 weeks out from launch at this point of Xenoblade X Definitive Edition? And now I'm somewhere over 80 hours in. I've finished chapter 11 and I'm going to do a bit more kind of affinity quests and whatnot to build up again, get over level 50 before I take on chapter 12, which was previously like the end game, right, of the existing content of the original release of Xenoblade X before obviously Definitive Edition has added some stuff. So yeah, definitely kind of helped speed me along a bit, I think before last week, I got to the point of the flying scale. So it was a lot of, kind of hunted down probes, to install that, were difficult to reach or out of reach and stuff like that. So virtually all the probes are done now. Lots and lots of affinity quests and all that kind of stuff. I mean, one of the big differences in the game is the ease with which you can switch out characters. I think it's almost hard to believe that it was the way it was in the original release in terms of
much work.
You had to go and find them in the in New LA to talk to them to bring them back into the active party, right? I mean, it's kind of strange to think so, but they did. And obviously, on top of that, what they've done with Definitive Edition is just make the affinity go up faster. So between, the ease of putting people back in the party and then also, just how fast that goes. I've got all the characters I've got unlocked. I've got basically max affinity with them, which I can only imagine was nowhere near being true when I was at the equivalent stage of my playthrough on Wii U. So, which, in terms of, how different it makes the experience. I mean, one thing it kind of reminds you of a little bit more is just like how there's just so many things, in terms of all the, the ground gear and the scale gear and the arts and the skills and the, and keeping even more characters kind of up to date in that regard. It's a lot, but, I did kind of, every now and again, you kind of have to tell yourself when it seems overwhelming. It's like, you have done this before. You played through this game before. It's okay. You can handle it. But, when you're sort of a more occasional RPG player, the way I am, it can be a lot. But no, it's been very, very enjoyable. I look forward to, obviously the pace is going to slow down a bit now, but getting this close to the end of the original kind of campaign and everything, it shouldn't be terribly, too much longer before, I could kind of give some general thoughts on the extended narrative content and whatnot. So you've got that to look forward to, I suppose. And other than that, I've made a start on the Rift of the Necrodancer because, I mean, it was practically pandering to me, very directly. I mean, it's not only a rhythm game, which I kind of enjoy in general, but it has bits of Rhythm Heaven and Punch Out in it. I mean, it feels quite directly targeted at me personally at times. So I had to oblige and buy it. And so, I've been through like the first 2 chapters of the kind of story mode there, which mixes in kind of the regular songs, that kind of go on a note highway kind of scenario with the mini games, and that are, based on Rhythm Heaven, sort of an homage to Rhythm Heaven games. And then a boss at the end that is kind of, obviously much more explicit and, sort of discreetly rhythm based kind of battle, but certainly does have a bit in common with Punch Out. So I've been enjoying that so far. Certainly, as I read in the reviews, it is quite difficult, and it's probably more difficult when you only sort of go back to it sort of more occasionally, the way that I've done, right? Because I have been playing a lot of Xenoblade X, and this is not a game that you play casually like Xenoblade X. It's got to be headphones on, locked in, really try and get it down. And the problem is, like, there's certain sort of rules about, the way that, you kind of beat enemies by getting the rhythm correct and stuff. Like, they're relatively complex, like yes, if it's a blue bat, you need to hit it twice, or if it's a gold bat, it's 3 times, and, these things move in different directions, and this, that, and the other, and, if you're coming back to it after little layoffs, that's not necessarily going to stick with you, or certainly not stick with me, immediately, so I'm not, being all Joe Pantoliano looking at the green screen reading the Matrix on it. But the thing is, the patterns always do integrate into the music itself, right? So if you play the song a couple of times, probably end up having a fail a couple of times, but once I kind of understand how it relates to the song itself, you start to get it, and eventually I get there. So I haven't really hit a wall yet, but certainly there was a little bit of trepidation there based on how some of the reviews talked about the difficulty. We'll see if it trips me up in the future. But yeah, I'll hold off any further comment until I've got more into the kind of meat of that story mode.
Cool. John, did you have anything you want to talk about?
No, not really. I haven't finished off Circle of the Moon. I still have to go back to it with what we talked about last week, trying the kind of jumping trick with the last boss, but I'll probably get to that this week.
All right, cool. Guillaume.
So, I've been busy. I did download how am I so poorly prepared for this? If you're a subscriber of Nintendo on Switch Online, there are game trials that you can try out. Of course, us being this close to May the 4th, they're Star Wars based. And so you can try for free Star Wars Episode 1 Jedi Power Battles and Star Wars Bounty Hunter. 2 games that made no splash critically when they came out, and that somehow got remasters. And it's
because they were running out of games to remaster.
Well, are they though? Like, where's my fucking Rogue Squadron? I'd even take Shadows of the Empire.
That one probably has, or both of those might have more rights holders involved than fucking these two. Like, that's got to be part of it, right?
Yeah, no, that's the only reason, really, that could possibly explain what's going on here. But yeah, like these games, both games I never touched back in the day because I read reviews back then, and also Jedi Power Battles was a PlayStation 1 game. I didn't have one, so it was kind of a non-starter. Bounty Hunter, I did have a GameCube, but I just
it's bad.
All the games from that era, the Star Wars games from that era, kind of seem to, outside of Rogue Squadron, seem to fail to capture the magic of like Jedi Knight 2 or
Pod Racer's good. Like that's an example of a game that took a window of the of the Star Wars space and said, we're going to make a game here and we're going to blow it out. And they understood the assignment. Bounty Hunter is based on Attack of the Clones, obviously. And functionally it's a third person shooter. Functionally it's fine, but yeah, no. No, it's not good.
Yeah, I didn't recall that you talked about playing this, but I do. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know anyone who's a big fan of it, except perhaps, like maybe John Reardon, the site director. What's his title? Anyway, like I think he might be of the age where like this game would have come out when like he would have been the most impressionable, and he reviewed this remaster for the website, and not like it's not a disaster. He gave it a 7, but I think that's like as generous as reviewers are gonna get. I only played like a level and a half of this before I decided, before I got stuck, really. This game's look is very brown, very uninteresting. I get that they start you off like in I guess like a very kind of poor, and not poor, but like I don't know even how to say this. Like you're in the dregs of society. Like you're going after criminals, right? Like they're gonna have bounties.
They're not in nice
heads.
areas.
So they're hiding and yeah, exactly. But like it just like I got lost in this area that seems to be just overall like rectangle shaped, and somehow I can't make my way out of the rectangle. I can't figure out where they want me to go next. The rectangle does have like 2 or 3 floors, but even so, yeah, like I feel like I've explored it up and down, left and right. I can't figure out where the bounty that I'm looking for, the guy who stole a speeder, is. I just got the jetpack, and it's not really helping me. Like the jetpack only raises the question of how people get around in this town when they don't have a fancy jetpack, because the architecture of the place makes no freaking sense. You know, like the whole place is just a massive wall of containers, I guess, and like, you know, converted into maybe like apartments or something, but mostly just like containers. But there's no bump mapping here. There's no geometry, you know, like it's just like the texture of containers on a flat cliff. It's very uninteresting.
Texture of Containers is a great band name.
Anyway, like it's very uninteresting to look at. I'm just thankful that there is no texture, because, or like, no, it doesn't look like you could find any purchase on them, because that would screw me up. You know, I would think like, oh, maybe I can land on here, and then like you can't, because the geometry is there just to look good and not to actually platform on. But yeah, like you go around, you just shoot everything that moves. You're meant to use some sort of scanner to, like every time that you enter a new place, to find bounties. And like if an enemy has a bounty on their head, you're not supposed to kill them. You're supposed to run up to them and use your lasso, and then collect them to get the reward. It's really weird. Like when you do your scanning thing, the time basically slows down to a crawl. Like it's the enemies basically don't shoot at you. Like you're almost invincible. You can leisurely just look at each enemy, like you move your pointer at them and see if they've got a bounty on their heads or not. But if you highlight one and they have one, and then you move your reticle, you've basically lost them. Like despite the fact that time hasn't sped up or anything, if you don't immediately press the right trigger to mark them, they're gone all of a sudden. So it's kind of a weirdly annoying exercise where like you don't want to move that reticle too fast while time is slowed to almost a stop, because otherwise you're going to miss that bounty, which I still don't really know what it does outside of unlocking some stuff in the bonus sections of the game. You know, like stuff like collectible Wizards of the Coast episode 2 trading cards, I guess, or the pages of a comic book tie-in. So I've read 3 pages of that comic book. I haven't unlocked the rest, so I'll never know about how Jango Fett was ultimately chosen to be the guy who they cloned in the Clone Wars. But it doesn't feel good. I do get that feeling of playing like an old PC game from LucasArts from that era, with like the resolution really cranked up, like it, and like coupled with the Star Wars music and the visuals. Like I feel like if this had caught me at a better time in my life when I was more impressionable, I might be very nostalgic for this. Instead, it's kind of giving me nostalgia for the games that I like. That like it makes me wish I was playing them instead. You know, I was like, yeah, this kind of has like almost a faint smell of familiarity. I wish I was playing something much better, or that I like much better.
I had a similar thing when I got around to DK64. I was like, well, it was very nostalgic, even though I'd never played it, because it reminded me of playing Banjo-Kazooie, which I did enjoy in the, you know, in 98 or whatever.
Yeah. I don't know if I have any more to say about it. I from what I've read of John's review, once you get the jetpack, like that's basically it. Like you've unlocked all the features of the game. Oh yeah, and I forgot to say, like you've got the original controls, you've got the modern controls. Neither has a good solution for switching between your weapons. Like because you need to switch to a different item to scan for a bounty, and then you need to switch to your rope to, shoot the rope. And then you have to switch to your pistol to be shooting your pistol. But that's kind of an issue because, like, if you're going around, okay, like, new area, I'm going to scan these enemies before they start shooting at me. There's no bounty here. Cool. Then you need to press twice on the D-pad on the right to be able to have your pistol equipped. So every time you move around in a game where all you have to do is shoot, really, outside of these bounty things, all you have to do is just like shoot everything that moves.
Great. Bounty hunting.
Every time like you enter a new area, you have to. Yeah, you have to stop, you have to scan everything, and then, like, okay, move to the pistol, and then you can shoot. And it's not a good loop for an action game, Like, you don't want to be, like, awkwardly going back to selecting your pistol every time. I feel like it should be 2 different buttons on the controller. I feel like there are enough buttons on the controller to just have one that's like, okay, scan. And there is one. But then, like, yeah, I don't know. Like, it just doesn't work. Then going to the pistol, like, you can't just press that button again to go back to the pistol. I don't understand. I don't understand the choices here. The other game that's that you can try for free might be even worse. Jedi Power Battles. A game I've always...
It's worse.
I don't know. I think I've been biased against from the start, because the title makes it sound so cheap. I don't know. Like, does Jedi Power Battles even sound like a Star Wars game?
Yeah, it sounds like if for some reason, like American Gladiators comes to mind, or something like that.
See, I think of it more like an arcade Power Stone-y thing, but with Jedi.
That's.
Yeah, but that's not quite what this is. But yeah, like, like Yoda taught us that war makes not make one great, and like these fuckers are having power battles. Like, it doesn't make any sense. That's all I'm saying.
It's sick, man.
It's the words of a man that learned his lesson by having all of his friends die simultaneously.
Mm-hmm. So what this is kind of a platformer / beat 'em up, which is not really proficient at either of those things. So it seems to follow loosely the story of Phantom Menace, and you start on the trading ship. I'm falling asleep already.
Trade Federation.
So you fight through waves after waves of droids. And
he's very excited, if y'all can't tell at home.
Yeah, and you've got 3 attacks. I haven't really...
Attacks is fucking up the world economy or whatever. It's not even escapist anymore.
No, it's really not. Yeah.
At least they were honest about what they were doing, to be fair. Like, they were direct about it.
Sure, yeah, we're gonna fuck up your economy.
Yeah.
But anyway,
pretty much.
So yeah, you're going through that original sequence in the Phantom Menace, and it goes for much longer than in Phantom Menace. You don't get to go through, like, use your lightsaber to go through doors or anything. Like, there's no puzzles to be solved here. There's just droids that you can hopefully just quickly lop the heads off of. Or just swing your sword awkwardly at them for a bit until they finally die. You can block. We found out way too late, looking at the controls, how you were supposed to use items or force powers. So we never used them, really. But we didn't need to, at least until we reached a point where we were facing a boss that seemed to require it. But, like, the controls don't feel too great. The animation is very choppy in a way that I feel should have been fixed in this release. Something I learned on Wikipedia, and I'm not even sure. Like, I have a trouble believing that's real. This game came out on PlayStation and Dreamcast for some reason.
It did.
Okay. Well,
that wasn't super uncommon.
Okay.
To get like Dreamcast.
Yeah,
ports
I mean,
of PlayStation
like Tony
games.
Hawk too.
Yeah.
But
it was. Companies wanted to support the Dreamcast to some degree, but they were really just biding their time for the PS2.
Sure. Well, anyway, so why this game though? I don't know. Like, definitely, Pod Racer was
had
much
it
better.
To release.
Yeah.
Pod Racer did get a Dreamcast port as well.
Yeah. So anyway, like, so the fighting doesn't feel great at all. You just go around, you destroy those droids, you collect power-ups, you do some really awkward platforming, but this is a game where it kind of the camera is kind of a Crash Bandicoot like. You know, like you go into the screen and then like sideways and then back. Like, the game is 3D, but the level design is very much Cartesian. You know, like just like east, west, north, and south, and those are all the directions that a corridor can take. You know, and so like sometimes you walk towards the you run towards the camera, and then you discover, hey, there are droids here, and you destroy them. But other times, so apparently I didn't know this, but they went and put a conveyor belt on that Trade Federation ship. So there is a conveyor belt section. It's going sideways to the right, and there are portions of that level that seem to go into the screen, you know, like north, I guess, where it looks like you can just jump and go on those platforms, but you can't, and you fall to your death. And this game has lives, like that you have a limited number of, and so extremely annoying. I don't know, like like it seems to tease at like some platforming bits that ultimately only exist to kill you, or that are just like an illusion. Like, there's an invisible wall here, actually, you idiot. So you should have stayed on the conveyor belt. Okay, well, why is this like this? I guess the one redeeming quality is that it's a 2-player co-op game. So Karen and I, had nut fun together for a bit. So there's that. I don't know. Like, it was a very bad experience. I think that actually playing it 2-player might make it worse, because then when someone successfully manages to do a platforming section that sucks, and the other person falls off, then like the camera can't follow both, and it's just gonna, like, you're gonna have to go back down, and like you'll have to both succeed together, and it doesn't feel good. So I don't, go try these hidden treasures. You've got until, you're listening to this probably on May the 4th. You've got until Tuesday to enjoy some of these hidden gems. So
won't.
The other thing that I've been playing is much better, and that is Lonely Mountains Snow Riders, a game that is not yet on the Switch. Maybe it's going to come on the Switch too, I don't know. It's not even on the PlayStation 5 yet. It's going to come out later this year on the PlayStation 5. That's been announced. But since January, it's been on, PC and Xbox. And I can see why they're not working on other versions yet. Like, it seems like the game's a little bit undercooked in some ways. Like, I can see some bugs with the menus, and like there are some slight issues that I can see. But this is a sequel to Lonely Mountains Downhill, a game that I've talked about. Like, it's a cool little game where you're going down a mountain on a mountain bike, and the controls were very simple. The camera is like kind of overhead. I don't know the name of the perspective, but like it can change around anyway. But like, so you have the choice of controlling either with the steering relative to your character, so like basically tank controls, or you can just direct, like the character is going to go in the direction that you're pushing the stick towards. That's what I use. That's what
more traditional
works better.
Steering.
Yeah,
more
and
normal
so
steering.
yeah, and so like just like Lonely Mountains Downhill, Lonely Mountains Snow Riders, like basically controls the same way, except this time you're not on a mountain bike, you're on skis, and so you instead also of holding the right trigger to move forward, basically, yeah, like you can push yourself off with your sticks, but mostly like the gravity is going to do the work for you, and so the game becomes much more about knowing when to press the A button, which makes you crouch, not crouch, but what's the term when you're crouching on your skis, right? Like you're kind of, trying to be aerodynamic. So that's kind of when you release the A button, that lets you jump, of course, but also like while you're holding down the A button, you lose a little bit of maneuverability, but you go much faster. And so, like the game very much becomes about, trying to use that to your advantage in places where you can pull that off. But this is a game where there are many obstacles on the path. Like you are doing some really like, some mountain skiing in the wild, where there are rocks jutting out, there are trees all over the place. If you scratch something, a little bit, like you're gonna bail. So one of the tips that the loading screen gives you a lot is the brake is not your enemy. That's the left trigger. They say like it helps you find shortcuts most of the time. Like that's the only way that you're going to be able to navigate certain parts, and you're going to be able to take shortcuts to make your way down the mountain faster. Yeah, so this game is all about you've got multiple levels, multiple slopes, and you unlock new levels, new slopes by finishing a stage without bailing too many times, by beating a certain time, or by doing both. Like usually, like the way that you're going to unlock the next level is you're going to beat the time. If you beat if you manage to go down the slope without getting hit too much, like that's going to give you some experience points that will level you up, and leveling up is the way that you get other pairs of skis that are better adapted to certain situations, and that's going to also allow you to take some shortcuts in some levels that you weren't able to take before. Yeah, I am all over the place on this, but anyway, like this is like a fantastic game. I really loved Downhill. Snow Riders is just as good. You might think like, oh, but Downhill had some variety in its settings. Like you started out in a very foresty kind of mountain, but then like you would go in, like more of a canyon setting, or a fall setting. And it's kind of the same thing here, like, yeah, like you've got a lot of snow, but like often it's so pretty, like it simulates really well that look of the snow, like in the scintillating in the sun. You do have stages that are set in a more like, snow-covered canyon with the red rocks and everything. It's very cool. You've got stages where it's all about powdery snow, and like that's got a different look and a different feel. And you've got other stages where like it's almost all, there's a lot of water everywhere actually, and some skis are going to help you with that. There are certain shortcuts that you're going to be able to access if you can hit that water at a speed high enough to be able to just like, water ski across it to the next bit of snow that you want to get to. Anyway, like it's a really, really, really pretty game, despite the fact that it's very, very simplistic looking. Like it's very much like a minimalist kind of, all the geometry is geometry, like you want to see triangles, like we've got plenty. There's not really much, in terms of, texture to look at. Like these are all like, these rocks are flat grays, and you can only distinguish them from the next rock because of, the shadows, basically, like the lighting. The sound also is really good because there's no music in this game, but like you do hear every the very characteristic sound of skis on snow, and like that changes depending on which type of snow you're on. You can create your own skier, and I chose to make my guy look, pretty old, and you can choose the voice, which is exclusively the noises that your guy makes when he bails. And so like I chose an old person's voice, and it just never ceases being funny whenever I bail. Just like, like just the oomph, like anyway, like it's very amusing. Speaking of bailing, one of the smart things also about this game is that when you do bail, like okay, like you start at the previous checkpoint, but the traces of where you went, like the ski traces remain, so you can make adjustments on the path that you were taking. Like if you realize like, oh, like further down this hill, I hit a rock, I should have gone around to the left. You're going to be able to, better avoid that obstacle because like you can see the path that you took previously. Although, this all kind of opens up like all sorts of metaphysical questions, like as I send my guy to, I guess, his death over and over again, or at least like a severe trip to the hospital, and yet like he just warps back to the checkpoint ready to go down again. Like I kind of wonder, like it sounds painful. Like does he remember just, that pain? Like clearly like he can see that someone else went down this slope right before him. Does he know that it was him? These are questions that the game doesn't really answer. So you're left to struggle with that by yourself. Anyway, like I just it's a really it's a really good game. I've seen some criticism online that they find the game too hard or something, but you know how gamers are. Sometimes they're babies. They're just being babies here. The game is all about kind of learning the different levels and knowing how to tackle them. So I don't really see a problem here. Like the pace at which you unlock new levels and new skis seems pretty good to me. Like I don't really I can't see that you would hit a wall in this game really necessarily. And also like the previous one, Lonely Mountains Downhill, and this game, they're both very online centered, but it's something that I've managed to completely ignore, so I can't really talk about that. But if you do want to compete with other people online, going down a slope and trying to to race that way, like you can do that. I haven't really tried. And there's also a whole system of doing tricks with the skis, but I haven't engaged with that at all because just surviving going down the slope is already tough enough.
The ultimate trick.
Yeah, and so I guess one final game that I can talk about, my report on Final Fantasy VI. So I said last week that I haven't suplexed the train, and I feel, yeah, like I don't know, like a missed opportunity. Like, what the hell happened? The thing is, like, I didn't have the suplex when I was fighting the train, and that kind of goes into how I've been playing Final Fantasy VI this time around. Like, back when I played it originally, when I was like, I don't know, 14 or so, I was just borrowing it from a friend, and I don't know, like I wasn't, like, the way that I would play RPGs usually, especially Final Fantasy games, was that I would grind, right? Like, if there's something, if there's an enemy, if there's a part of the game that's too hard, I would just grind and grind and grind until I could beat it. This time I was like, well, you know what? I at least gotta try to make it as quickly as possible to when you unlock the espers. Because the espers is the system in Final Fantasy VI where you can, equip them on a character, and when they level up, they're gonna, like, that esper can give it a bonus. Like some of them can give you like +1 or +2 strength with every level up, or more mana or more health. So it's extremely helpful in shaping the characters the way that you want them to be, so that was my goal. And so, yeah, I made it past the train part without having the suplex, and I was a little bit bummed about that. And then I played the game. I'm now at the World of Ruin, so I made it pretty far. Still no fucking suplex. And
what the fuck?
Yeah, I know. Like, how much grinding did I do when I was a kid? Like, what the hell? How did anyone suplex
Gotta
the train?
Gotta get that suplex. Gotta suplex that train.
Yeah.
Like,
so
is it something where you have to discover it, or have to go to a particular place or a hidden area and find it?
No. So, yeah. So at Ultimate, like, I was gonna try to go, like, play through the game on vibes and what I remembered from Nintendo Power back in the day and from my initial playthrough. But I was like, well, this is ridiculous. I got to look it up. So I looked it up, and I was supposed to have unlocked it at level 10. And that's when I realized that Meteor Strike, the blitz that I had been ignoring because the description didn't mean anything to me, and like I was like, Meteor Strike? Like, I don't remember using this even once originally, so it can't be that good. Meteor Strike is the new translation for suplex. And so I had it this entire time.
That makes no sense.
Well, it does make sense when you know that in Japanese the move was called I'm not going to pronounce it, but like they borrowed the English word meteor strike, so that's what it's called in English, in Japanese, and so they accurately, I guess, translated it, kept it as it in English.
It does sound like a New Japan name for the move of, like, somebody does a suplex.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's just suplex, bro.
Yeah, so I guess it was called suplex originally because it would save characters, and also because it was maybe more evocative for English speakers. But, yeah, so basically, no, I did not, like, I was not so good this time around at the game that I managed to beat a whole, the first half of this game without even unlocking the suplex. It's more that I'm an idiot who should have at least tried each blitz once. But I'm pretty sure I tried the meteor strike at least once, and it probably whiffed. Like it was against an enemy that you could not suplex. So that was like, well, fuck that. It doesn't seem very useful.
Nice.
And
nice.
Yeah, then I never really tried it again. Something I learned, though, like, I'm not supposed to give Sabin more strength with the espers. I'm supposed to really work on his magic, because a lot of his more useful blitzes actually use the magic stat. So I've been, again, like, I'm learning so much from going on the internet once to look up this character. At this point, I don't know what the best way to experience the rest of Final Fantasy VI is. Like, I know that the first time around I did have Nintendo Power tips that helped me through. Like I knew that you could save Sid. I knew, I knew what to do for certain parts of the game, but this time around, it's really just what I remember, and I kind of wonder, like, is that really a good way to get through the game? I don't know. Like, it's not like I'm gonna discover by myself, I don't know, like the tricks, like wherever like the really useful enemies are hiding, or some characters have really weird ways of getting new moves, like you've got a blue mage, but you've also got Gao, who there's only this one area on the map, the Veld, where you have to send him off in the wilderness, and you go through a few battles, and then you have to draw him back in with a chunk of meat, and then he's learned all these rages that are based on the enemies that you just fought. It's really weird, and I don't think that I'm going to figure that out on my own, like what's useful and what can I safely ignore. So I don't know. I guess we'll see.
I'll have you know, Guillaume, that I'm looking at the fandom wiki entry for Meteor Strike, and of course the screenshot that it has for it is of somebody suplexing the train. I just wanted to know that.
Yeah. Well, at this point, it's a meme, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I feel pretty dumb about that. Well, do I have more points? I guess I can make more points later. But I will say that Final Fantasy VI kicks ass. Like, it's so much, like, it's really been fun playing through the evolution of these games, like seeing like what, how the one builds upon the previous one, and just 6 just is firing on all cylinders. It's so much more sophisticated than 4 in terms of storytelling. 5 was almost not even trying to tell a story. Here they really figured out like how to make the characters interesting, how to make you care for them, how to work them into the plot. And like it's doing some stuff that I didn't remember. That is almost like Chrono Trigger adjacent. Like a lot of people hold the trial scene of Chrono Trigger in high esteem because you're like, oh shit! Like all this stuff that I did at the beginning of the game, the game was keeping track of that, and now it's like something is happening based on that. Like that, how crazy is that? But the Final Fantasy VI has a lot of like the banquet scene with the Empire, where the Emperor is like, oh, I've seen the error of my ways. Let's talk about peace and how we can move forward. And there's like this whole scene where first you have to go talk to all the soldiers to get them to know you, I guess. Like, anyway, so that you've got like 5 minutes to do that before the banquet itself. And then during the banquet, like you have to answer these questions in a satisfying manner. And then like there are some other things there, but like meanwhile, like the game is kind of giving you like counting all these points if you do all these things correctly, and if you hit a certain threshold, like you unlock various things based on how many points you got, during these scenes. And that's not something that I remembered, but it's definitely, like very cool. And it's not the only part of it like that. Like there's a few more that I can't remember right now off the top of my head. Well, I guess like the Sid thing, right? Like the game doesn't tell you what to do. It doesn't tell you that you can't even pause your screen. Like you have to go quickly, get some quick fish, and then feed it to Sid, and then eventually like it'll start getting better, and then like he'll be, up and about. But if you don't do that, if you lose too much time, even if you've got the menu on, like the time is still counting down, but the game is not telling you. And so Sid can die, and then there's like this whole emotional scene that you see that you wouldn't have otherwise. And yeah, you don't save Sid. So like the game is doing stuff that you don't see in any of the previous ones, and it's kind of remarkable. Just like it's almost like an exponential jump from 5, I find. Like, it is so much better. It's not in the same league. So, yeah, I'm really enjoying it. And, yeah, that's about it.
Has James
I've
left?
killed James.
I think so.
Yeah. He's just secretly a Final Fantasy V fan. He's just like choking in his own rage.
I guess so. Unless he can hear us, but we can't hear him.
Which reminds me, what's their name? The people who remastered so many games. Blade Runner Remaster. I should know this off the top of my head, but it's Night Dive. Yes, thank you. Night Dive Studios.
They did a lot of the first-person shooter ones, like Exhumed, or the one that you played a fair bit.
Yeah, and System Shock, and but they also recently did I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream. Anyway, so my joke doesn't work because it took me so long to come out with it, but I'm guessing that James is in a similar situation. Well, it's just awkward.
It is.
I don't know. How should we handle this?
I don't know.
All right. Well, yeah. So I'm sure I'll have more thoughts about Final Fantasy VI because I'm really not quite done with it at all. I've got the whole World of Ruins to go through.
Yeah. How long does it take to beat?
I'd have to look it up, but it's probably like 30, 35, maybe 40. Like, I think we were getting in that territory. But it really, from what I remember, the World of Ruins is a lot of optional content, right? Like, technically, maybe you could just jump in, like go to Kefka's Tower with just Celes, but, well, probably not. It's probably unrealistic. But, yeah, like there are a lot of like various different almost side stories. Even after you collect all the characters.
Yeah, because you're not really forced to go through all of the side stories for all the characters, are you? Like
no, you really don't. Yeah, like I mean, like Shadow, if you don't wait for him at the end of a certain sequence. Like he's not even going to be available. Like he's dead. Like you're not going to find him in the World of Ruins. There are characters like Mog that you can get in the World of Balance, but usually if you don't know that, if you don't go back to Narsh and go and find him, you'll see him for the first time in the World of Ruin. Yeah, like the game is full of like little optional things. It's kind of crazy, and so yeah, that's kind of why I feel like maybe my best bet is to keep an eye on a guide. Yeah, as I play through it, because otherwise I'm just going to miss out on too much content.
Yeah,
sometimes
that's what I would do if I replayed it right now.
Yeah, like sometimes I don't do that. Like for Persona games, I'm like, well, I don't really care. You know, like these games are too long for me to really worry about optimizing each day and each week, like to be able to make sure to unlock, you know, like this character's relationship fully or whatever. And so like there are situations where there are characters that I miss completely. I don't even know they exist. Yep. But Final Fantasy VI, I feel like it's small enough that I do want to try to see as much of it as possible, you know?
Yeah, because I remember when I first played through it, I just played it, right? Like I had no guide, no nothing. And so I really don't have in my mind a good concept of how long that game is. Because I feel like it feels longer to me than it probably was when I played through it.
Yeah. Well, I'm pretty sure it's shorter than any of the PlayStation ones. Yeah,
for sure. Oh, for sure. Yeah, but I don't know. Like I know that Chrono Trigger. It took me about 20 hours to play through that. And
that would be shorter. Right now, I'm at like 17 hours into Final Fantasy VI already. So yeah, it's going to be much longer.
Yeah, so it's probably going to. Yeah, I think you're right. It's probably going to be 30 to 35 hours by the time. Like it was probably I probably played through it. I probably could have beaten it at 30, but probably like I did the same thing too. I would sit there and grind and find the best monsters to fight. Like I think it was the behemoths were the really good guys to fight. To really grind on.
I remember like sandworms or something in some desert.
Yeah, that rings a bell. Yeah. But there was definitely the monsters to fight if you wanted to sit there and max out your characters. And so I would
try to steal like Genji gloves from certain enemies so that you would hit twice with every character, and like there are ways to make your party like really super powered.
Yeah.
Some of them relied on some bugs that existed in the original version, so I kind of wonder if they fixed them in this version. And I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I don't think that James is coming back, Greg. So. So I don't know how we're going to bring this back to Yoko Shimomura, but what is
true.
Music?
It's get close. I mean, Final Fantasy VI, it's strictly Uematsu territory, but well, we did call AG, in the email earlier on about Yoko Shimomura's career, referenced the fact that work on Street Fighter 2 should not be, left behind or forgotten about, and in particular, obviously he cited the fact that yes, there's all the memes about Guile's song and all that kind of stuff, but for him, it's Ken's theme that does the business, and specifically the arcade version, kind of the arcade sort of synth, because again, a game that was ported and iterated on so many times, it's kind of interesting. I wonder, to a lot of people, what is the kind of primary version of something they think of when they think of that? Is it from a home port? Is it from even is it a later game that the theme came back in?
I was going to say, real ones only accept the Genesis soundtrack.
Yeah, well, I mean, for me, obviously, I had we imported the first, Super Famicom port of Street Fighter 2 before, any of the Turbo or Super Street Fighter. And that it is difficult to kind of accept other versions. That's what I heard again and again and again. I really do think some of those songs work a little bit better with the Super Nintendo approach of, the kind of, the samples, giving them some more authentic sounding instruments. But then in other cases, I think you could say, there's just like a bit more of a kind of crispness and energy to the more FM synth sounding ones, with the Capcom arcade board, and indeed, some of the home ports that kind of retain that quality. But Ken's theme, I think, just works either way. I would say, it really is still kind of, intact with whatever kind of version of it you want to choose for me. But AG went with the arcade one, so that's what we're going with.
Cool. All right. Well, that's it for this week. Thanks for listening. Thanks to people who have written in at rfn@nintendoworldreport.com. Thanks to James for hosting most of the podcast. And we're going to talk at you next week. Bye.
See ya.
Bye-bye.